this is Kate Quinn from Fabricated Quilts. Hope that you're going to join me today. We'll give just a minute or two to kind of let people join the broadcast, and then we'll start our conversation. If you're out there, I see some people signing in, so please let me know if the visuals are good and if you can hear well, and then we'll just give a minute or two for people to go ahead and sign on. I'll say hi to some people. Hi, Judy. Hi, Susan Digman. Hi, Marie. Bonjour. Nana, hi. I love your work. I saw what you've been posting lately. It looks great. Carol, D. Shaw. So we do already have a pretty good group that has already signed on. So we won't delay because we kind of have a lot of different things that we're going to talk about today. And I kind of wondered when I was planning this if this is complicated or not. So there are a lot of things that we're talking about, and if you feel like this is, not your thing, it might be a little too complicated. There's 3 different methods that we're going to show for how to do this style of design, and some of them are easier and some are not. We'll do the easiest one first, and we'll talk about the pros and cons of each method. And what I've done is I didn't have time to write them up, but I made my own little cheat sheet, and I will type that up and add it to the post after the broadcast. Might take a day, but that way if you feel like you need a reference for what is the pros and cons of each method, then you'll be able to look at that as well. So this was just my practice piece, and let me just kind of show you what we're doing is we're doing this pearls, and you have the option to have a line on either side of the pearl like this. You could have it with no lines like this. And then these are one of the methods. This is the easiest method that we're going to share, and this is the Strand of Pearls. And this one, it connects up at the top along this line. It doesn't connect in the middle. So there are some differences about how they look, a little bit how they look. Right? And we'll show you. I'll get you up and close, whereas these ones connect right in the center like that. And then this one, I made the outer lines afterwards. So I'm going to show you each of these in turn, and we'll talk about which ones are which. So the first one I'm going to start with has a lot of lines. Don't be afraid. It's just got a lot of lines. Hi, Marilyn. I know it's morning for you. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Okay, so on this, I have used my crosshair square. This is the 8-point crosshair square, and I have made 32 lines, I think, a lot of lines. So you would do the initial 8, you would split those in half, and then each of those additional 16, we split those in half. So that's the 32 lines that we have right now. So let me show you the first template. Okay, let me get my card. Can you get the blue card? It's on the ruler rack right there. And Honey is here, keeping me straight as always. He's awesome. So let's get you in where you can see everything. So these are the circles up here, this part. And there's 2 different ones on each of these. So the circles are the same size right here. They're not different, but the difference is the travel. So when you see these are your pin holes right down here, and I'll show you the lines in just a moment, but I want you to recognize that if we're doing this side, which is the 10.5, I want you to take your finger and follow this line all the way down to the pinhole. It's pretty easy to put it on that pin, but that pin goes to that side. So when you're starting, just take your finger, follow the line down, and that is the pin that you need to use for this one. So I'll show you also real quick just the cover of this one right here. So this is the packaging, and the first thing I want you to see is how these circles are not touching each other. Sometimes it's possible that I could make them touch, but there's a lot of things that we'll show you about that, about making them touch or not. And notice how there is a circle on the inside line here. So with this template, I can have it on the inside, I can have it on the outside only, or I can have it on both sides. And it's a little bit of explanation, so we'll share that. And because we're sharing the design where it's on both sides, I'll sew all the way around because I'm going to show you the line on both sides as we go, okay? So let's go ahead and get our pin in there. And notice that I've got my stable tapes around the design. They're not everywhere. They're where I'm going to be holding because I'm going to be holding right around this part of the design. All right. So as I said, this one is the easiest in the sense that this one is specifically designed to make a strand of pearls. That's its whole function. So put your pin in the center. That makes your nice mark on the back, and then you can get everybody lined up. I never can do this on camera though, because I have to bring it up a lot closer to my eyeballs. All right, let's get it right in the hole. So just to let people know, I have a single layer of batting. This is 80/20 poly, so just a single. Would the template hole still work if you put the pin in the opposite? It does work. It's totally, I mean, if you put it down like that way, no, it won't. Because then your pin is into your table. It does not work that way. The pin has to come up like this. The reason that I put it in the front is so that I can find the hole so I don't have to fish around to find the center. I could just put it in the back, but then I'm like, oh, is it in there? Is it in there? Oh, no, not quite. Move it over, move it over. This way you have a visual so you don't have to fish around. It's just easier. So, but no, the pin definitely for sure, this sharp point needs to be coming up, okay? Know the holes in the template. Patsy, I'm sorry, but maybe I'm not understanding. Could you send it to Pat? Send your question a little more detail to Pat, and then he'll relay it to me, okay? So we're using this one down here, so I'm going to put it on there. Now, when I line this up as I go around on this design, the circle part of it is this to that. It's only this part. So when I stitch the circle, I'm going to sew from this crosshair line around and do half of the circle, and then I will rotate it and line it up. Oh, it's off of the marking, darn it. Sorry. Here, I'll try to hold it a little bit better. Oh, okay, I can't, so I will just shift the camera so we can show you a little bit easier. There we go, that'll be better. Okay, so let's get a little bit of chalk. So as I sew, I'm going to sew this side, and I'm going to stop on the crosshair line. Then I'm going to move this template so that the other side of the circle is on it, and sew that side like that. If I want a line on the inside, I will have to travel on the bottom. If I want a line on both sides, then you're going to have to travel on both. You'll have to sew this side, and then you'll have to come back and you'll sew the top. And then you'll move and you'll get lined up, and then you'll sew this half and you'll do the next one. So when you're sewing, only half of that at a time. So there's a lot of movement of this template. So we'll just get started so you can kind of see how it is. I'll sort of start right where we marked initially. So I'm going to just put my foot in there. So one of the advantages to this particular one is it allows you to make the integrated circle while you're sewing the pearls. Some people just really like that. They want their pearls right in the channel, and this will allow them to do that. And you can sew just one side or both sides. I like both just because I like that. I think it's pretty. So we'll be coming back to the start, but I'll just hold these initially to give us the initial look right there. So right there, we've sewn half. Now, in order to finish it, I've got to line up this outer line. Ooh, fix our camera. Let's get us in there a little better. All righty. Let's turn it to just so you can see what I've done so far. Okay, so we sewed the half on this side, and we're going to line it up on this reference line right there. And once we do that, we're already touching right there.
Camera's off.
It's off. Let's see.
There you go.
It's just hard to get in there for this one. Maybe we'll try to put it on the front. Let's see. Is that better, you guys? Can you see that better? So we've sewed this half, and we're on the crosshair mark, and now we're going to sew this side right here, okay? All right, so let's see. I'm lined up, and I'm going to close that circle. That's the first thing that we do is close the circle. And now if we want to travel, now we're going to move. So in order to move, I'll line this up on this next crosshair line. And the reason I made so many lines is I wanted a lot of circles, because we're kind of showing you that you can make a bunch of circles in this channel. But I could skip this. I could come all the way over to here if I wanted to, but I don't. I want more circles. So now I'm going to line up this reference line and also this half. And then I'll line it back up to sew the other half. And just make sure that your ruler is touching so you can get the nice circle. And then you'll shift again and you'll go to the next circle. So you can see here that these crosshair lines are the critical part of making your circle round. Because if we go a little bit past it, you know, we end up with kind of a little bit of a wonky circle. So you can see that it's not like it takes forever or anything like that. It's just as you go, you'll get more efficient, just like anything. As we've been getting better, we get more practice. But this does require a lot of template movement in order to get the design. So we'll go ahead and we'll go to the next line. And my quilted sandwich is a little bit big, so I'm just going to adjust it. And then we'll do the other half of the circle. So that's how you got to think about this design. You're doing half of the circle, and then you're going to move to the next position. We'll do half of it, and then the other half. Now this is a 1/2 inch circle, so it's pretty small. We do have the 1 inch circles that are part of our Strand of Pearls, and we also have other shapes. So the whole function of these particular designs are being able to sew them in that circle and go around and sort of make that frame. So we actually have hearts, we have diamonds, we have big circles, we have little circles. And then let's see, we'll just go. All right, so let's see if you can move it. Did you have some questions?
Well, so I guess number one, what's the name of this template again?
All right, so maybe we have some people that are just joining, so I'll go ahead and I'll put the picture back up. So this is the Strand of Pearls, right? And they're gonna connect on one side of the circle like that. And they may or may not touch. So here's what happens right now. If you see how tiny this is, I wouldn't think that I could fit another of this same size in between right there, right? And so that's one of the things that as you're planning for this design, you're gonna make whatever crosshair lines you're gonna make, and you'll do the initial circles, but then whenever you go back, you may have a little gap. So let me show you the gap that we have right now so far. So let's come up just a little bit so you can see better. All right, so we have this gap right now, and I don't know right at this moment. I think I could probably fit another one in there, and I'm not positive, but I'll try it. And that's what you end up having to do. Different sizes of these templates may fit better or not. So let me just finish this one, and I'm going to go back up to the top. And now I'll show you how we can move across the top. And if we wanted to, we could try to fit one in there. If I wanted to fit another one in there, the very first thing I would do is I would finish all of these, and then I would mark new crosshair lines in the middle of this space. I would actually mark the middle of this and that, and try to make a whole new set of crosshair lines that would line me up right in the middle to put another circle right in the middle there. And they may touch and they may not. It depends on how much space is available in between. Sometimes it's too tight. It's okay if they cross over, they'll cross over all the same, but if you don't want them to cross over, then maybe you would be finished. So let me show you a few of the additional templates.
I think I got the pinhole thing whenever you're wanting that.
Okay, so let me just show you a few more. Each of these have two different ones, and then the biggest one is 11.5, and it's just by itself. So it's like this. There's not an extra one on this side. This one's really long to get to this one. And so what determines if your little circles will touch or how many you can fit in there, it's the circumference around. So depending on how many circles you fit in, you could maybe have them cross over, or maybe they'll just kiss, or maybe they won't touch at all. That is what you're going to have with this. And each one of these templates is going to offer something different. Now, you could actually draw all of these out and see how many can fit on a piece of paper with your stitching line discs, because these are not going to change. However many can fit, this circumference from here and the pin is not going to change. So if you drew this out and you tried to fit as many circles as you could without them crossing over, that is going to stay the same for every design. It's not going to change because this distance is not going to change, right? So there's 4 different ones in this grouping. There's 5 different sizes in this set, and they are kind of the same for block sizes. So each one of them is like 4.5, 9.5. So this would fit inside the 10-inch space, right? And then this one would fit inside a 5-inch block.
So the template question is kind of related to that. It's the 2 holes that you could put the pin through. What's the difference between them, and why are you using one versus the other? It's the radius length.
Oh, okay, I got you.
There.
Okay. All right, so I guess this was the question that we didn't answer before, or I didn't correctly answer. I did mention that if you're on this side of the template, you're going to take this line and you're going to follow it down to this pin. This pin goes with this side. And the reason for that is this is the distance right here, is the measure of this angle. This is 9.5, right, for this template? Well, that's that distance, right? That pin is measuring that to make a circle. If I use the wrong pin, this is not measured for that circle. It is measured for the bigger circle. So you're not going to get the correct circle shape. It's going to be off. So make sure that you take that line and you follow it down, and you make sure that you're using the correct pin, or you will not have a circle. You will have a wonky thing. So hopefully that was clear. Okay. So anyway, we've done a little bit of this, and now we've got ourselves at the top, right? And so, as I said, if I wanted to, I could line these lines up in the middle. This is definitely would be very much me sort of guessing right here that I'm in the middle, but I could scoot over to the center. We'll just try it because we can. And I would be looking to get my foot right in the middle. And now I've got to line up so that I can put that circle on this side. So we'll try one. And we're stopping with the bottom aligned on the line there. And then we'll do the other side. And we're getting this essentially right in the middle. And then I would get myself lined up so I could go across the top to the next one. So there is a center line right here that you're lining up. But I do think that this can be a little bit more complicated than if you're trying to make everybody touch. And I'm going to show you an idea for one that's a little bit easier to make them touch if you want that. So we'll go ahead and we'll do this circle on this side, and then I'll take it off just so you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to have to shift it just a little bit so I can see my alignment there on the side for you. So we have to do the other side of the circle. So what I would want is this essentially opening is touching that line. That'll make sure that we're a 1/4 inch away to fit that in, and then we would go across the top to the middle. So this is how we can get the top and the bottom. And what I usually do is I'll just pick one side and complete the whole side on the bottom, and then I'll just start moving across the top to fill in the top. So let me go ahead and we'll tie this off. We'll kind of get to that last circle right there, and then we'll tie it off. And this way you can at least see how we've filled it in a little bit. But I think if you want them to touch, maybe another way might be easier. Here, I would be content with this style to not try to cram too many in, because then I think that you might get a nice touch and you might not. So I think for this one, having it maybe a little bit open like this might actually look better with this particular template. All right, I need a scissors. Where'd my scissors go? Let's cut these threads for you. All right. So I'm going to put my pin away. So this is what we get, you know, if we are just using the crosshair lines, we can get this line on the bottom. All the little circles are going to be attached to this bottom reference line. So this integrates the top line and the bottom line really easily. And then here, what we did is we tested it. Can we get it to fit? We do have enough room, but we would have to make very specific set of crosshair lines right in the middle to make sure that that circle will fit in the middle. And this to me would be hard. I would rather have a bigger gap that was intentional than not be able to control whether they touch or not. So for this method, with this strand of pearls, what I normally would want to see is where my circles are a little further apart. And see how the spacing is different here and here? And that's because of the circumference. There's different amount of space here than there is on this bigger circle, so these are a little further apart. So this is something you would definitely want to draw those out, get your paper and your stitching line discs, and then you would know exactly what your look was going to be on your exact size with each template. Okay? Yeah, so they're both good. Somebody just said she likes them not touching. So I like this too. And you can see that this has a big space here, but we could make it so that the line is right on the top as well. So we don't need this gap. She's got a gap, but that's up to you. That would mean you would just come back along the top and you would sew the top line. So you can have that bigger space, but for this design, you're always going to have at least one line because the line is the travel line for this template. So you're never going to have just circles touching each other. You're going to have a line somehow. Okay, so this is the strand of pearls, and mine were the 1/2 inch size. And here's the information that you can see. You get 5 different actual templates and you get a bunch of different sizes. 4 of them have 2 different sizes, and then the 11.5 is just the single size. So lots of great options for you with this one. And this, as I said, is specifically designed to make those circles. And if you use any of the individual lines, they will touch the top of the circle and the bottom of the circle. These additional lines here were done with something else. They were not done with this template, but maybe the circles on quilts. But the lines for this will actually touch the top and the bottom of the circle for each design. Okay, so let me make sure I have my little cheat sheet here. I want to make sure I told you all of the important facts. So this one is definitely made for circles in a circle, and they're going to be evenly spaced because we use the crosshair line, so we have the ability to evenly space the circles so that we have an exact amount throughout the circle. And that is important, and we'll talk about that with the next design, because with the next design, it's kind of a crapshoot. It might not work out. So then these are going to connect at the top or the bottom only. They're not necessarily going to connect between each other in the middle. And then the circle outline is included on these as the travel line. You're always going to have at least one of those lines, if not both of those lines, and they will touch the circle either on the top or the bottom or both of them. Okay, so and then the whole thing is you might end up with spaces, right? You're going to possibly end up with a space, or if you try to put one in there and it's bigger than the space, you may end up with a little overlapping circle. But they'll still be even, which is also great. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll move on to another one. So we're gonna pick another spot down here. And I just kind of basted these so they're not moving around too much. So the second one that we're gonna do is my favorite one for making them touch. But again, there is challenges with making sure you have the exact right amount. And we're going to talk about maybe how you could fudge that if you wanted to. Alrighty, so put that one away. All right, so here's the next one that we're going to share. And here's the paperwork for it. Nope, wrong one. This one. This is the Artisan circle. And again, we're using the 1/2 inch circle size. Okay, and these will make amazing circles that touch. And then what we'll do is we'll sort of do half of this just to show you how the spacing is. We'll do it halfway around. Now, we still need a pin, and we can choose whatever we want. We're going to try to kind of make ours the same size as that one over there. So let's see what my little cheat sheet says. We're going to center it on this 10.5 mark right there with the pin. And that'll give us the same exact diameter as the one that we just did. So this one, in the sense of sewing the circle, it is a lot easier in that sense, about just being able to just line it up and go. So we're using the halfway mark right here. We're going to sew from this half, and we'll do circles all the way in a half circle. And the reason I want to do it in a half circle is I want to talk about how we could fudge it if we needed to, so that we can create whatever symmetrical design that we need to, because we don't know how many of these circles will fit around here. So we could end up going around, and maybe when we get over here, we're this far away from the line. And then what do? Because that means that when we get back to the beginning, we would have a gap. So we're going to plan for that gap just in case. We're going to start on this center line, and as we work our way around, we may stop short here. And then when we do the other half, we'll start here and we're going to go this way. That's how we can arrange the symmetry for this one. And you could also do it in, quarter quadrants or in eighths. It's up to you. So the other one is very good at making sure your circles are spaced evenly. This one, maybe not, but this one is going to look really pretty where the circles are touching each other. So here, you're going to sew your circle, and just like we do circles in a channel, you're going to go to your halfway point, and then move it over, and just sew the next one. One of the things that I do like about using this one is super easy to line up, and it's also very, very convenient that the circles don't overlap each other, because when I move right now, let me just show you. If I scoot and I'm ready to do the next one, I'm already at the farthest point of the circle, so this will not sew into the previous one at all. It's just going to touch at that tangent point, and I'm going to stop at this line right there. So I can just keep sewing my circles around. Now, we talked before. Oh, look it, see? I am right on that line. I might be lucky. That might fit really well. Oh, no, it went over. Darn it. Just let it touch. Don't try to force it. So that's the key there. You got to make sure that you're letting the foot hit where it's going to hit and not try to make it line up with something, because it's going to do what it wants to do, not what you want. So right here, make sure that this is touching all the way. And we're just going to sew around the circle until we get to that other side. So I want to line it up sort of on that line right there. And I don't want to cross over. So if it looks like it might cross over, I'm just going to go back, because I want a nice clean, I don't want this. Can you guys see that one right there? That's where I didn't have it touching really good. I don't want it to overlap like that. I want a nice kiss like this one. So make sure that you tuck your ruler right up into the foot. Make sure it's touching really well before you start going. And then if you see that you might be cutting into the other circle, just stop, don't do it, and just come back to the middle. The benefit of this circles on quilts is this is keeping all of the circles the same distance apart from the center. So you're going to get that nice ring by moving it like this. You're not going to get some kind of wonky circle because they're all the same distance away. So we'll just keep going. So these are going to touch really nice in the center. But again, we're a little bit off right here. I don't know if you can see. Let me put my ruler so you can see the alignment. So notice how we're close, but we're not quite exactly on the line. And as we move, make sure that we're touching here, and we'll sew that circle around to touch and back. So here you can see these are really pretty. I mean, I think these circles look great. Let's see, can you see them? They look really pretty, don't they? Now here, this does not have any line. So if you want to make the line, I'm going to show you how to do that. But the disadvantage of this one is then you would need another template. If you wanted to have the arc lines on here, you would have to have something else in order to make those. And I'll show you, I think we're almost done, right? We'll just go to the quarter quadrant. We won't go all the way because we want to show you some other things. So right here, let's talk about the whole fudging thing before we go any further. Okay, so I don't have the proper amount of room to fit one in there and have it match like I have on the other side. Because if you look on this side, we have it centered on this, right? And here at this quadrant, we might get it mostly in there, but not quite. It's not going to fit right on this line and be even like the other side. So what we would do here is if you want to fudge it, you can always decide when you want to fudge it. If we were close enough there, I can go ahead and I can make this channel and I can just put some little wonky thing in there. It doesn't even have to match. I can just do maybe like a yin and yang and get me to the center. And then I can put this back on at my 10.5. Ooh, I can't get it on there. Oh, goodness sakes. These things are so ornery. There we go. And then I can reset this so that I'm lined up in the proper place, and I can sew back out with my little echo that I just made, and that just kind of creates a little fun detail. So I've got to go all the way across now to this side. And now I can put the circle in there and I'm ready to go on. And then I can have just some little wonky thing, and that would be the same wonky thing wherever I need it. So you could do it in each quadrant. You could do it with each of these marks. You could always stop short of one. But I think usually halfway or quarter quadrants would be more symmetrical. So they would give you that option for symmetry. Or you can just stop on that last circle and jump over and reposition on this center line and then sew your quadrant and then jump over. And then you'll have like an evenly spaced gap on each side, and then it will look symmetrical. And then you won't have any kind of weird wonkiness. It'll look like you did that intentionally, because you would start here exactly the same, and then when you get here, you just leave that little gap, and then you would line up the next one right there, and then sew that quarter and line it up. So with this one, the challenge is that you don't know how many circles you're going to get, so it's hard to tell, but you could always do it on paper, and you could decide, do you like how that looks? How does it fit? It's always better if you test sew it out, because I think that paper and the stitching do have a little bit of changes. But what I like about this particular one is I really like how they touch. I like the connection here about how the circles touch right in the center, and they are connected nicely. So this is one that I like this connection the best. That's just my personal preference. But you should do what you like, not what I like. But I'm just showing you different ways so you can be informed. Okay? So if I want to, let's see, we'll just cut this one because I want to show you something else here. We'll just tie this off. So one of the cool things about using this pin for this one is I can really easily make those additional circles. So remember what I said, if you wanted to, you can have any different size. That's one of the benefits of this. I can have circles in different sizes. So the other one, the Strand of Pearls, has, let's see, 9 different sizes in terms of the dimensions, right? But look at how many different sizes we have right now. With this one, the advantage is you got a lot of different sizes that you can make your circle. You can just move the pin to any one that you want and just keep going. But the disadvantage is that you might not have an even amount of circles that will fit in any given space. So you have to account for that, right? So this can do some great things, but it's different than the other one. And if I want to put the reference lines on either side of the circle, then I'm going to have to grab a tool. So I'm going to do that now. So I can put my circles on quilts on, and I can try to find which one is going to fit around this space right here. So this one actually is going to fit nicely. He's going to give me a 1/4 inch space on either side. So we sewed at the 10.5, and this is 9. So I think if we use the 10 right here, I think we would be right on the bottom line. Let's see. All right, so here we go. We'll just put this up so you can see. I'll put it right on the pin, and you'll be able to see that it'll line us up. What did we say? 10.5? Here we go. 10.5. There we go. Right there. This will give us the line right here on the top. And then if we wanted to get the line on the bottom, I think we need the 9.5. So here you can see we need quite a few different templates in order to stitch that line. So it will work. It'll actually connect really nicely. Where is my thread? Oh, there we go. I'm connected. So we'll just start over here down on the end so you can see, and we'll connect it right here to the top of this little guy. He's touching right on the top. And again, with the circles on quilts, you kind of have to pick the top or the bottom. And right now I'm touching on the bottom and I'm touching on the circle. So for this one, I would visually check, pick whichever side is actually fitting the circle that you want. If you're touching when you're on the top or you're touching on the bottom, you're just going to follow whichever is dictated by the design. And I'll just tack it off right there so you can see. So this one, in order to get the circles touching and to get the line on the bottom and on the top, I would need 3 different templates in order to do that. All right. See, I told you this was a little complicated, huh? But one of the benefits of it is it lets you see what choices you have, and you may already have some of these templates. So you may decide to go with what you already have, or you may find that the one that you have is a little bit hard and doesn't work the way you want it. So maybe you want one of these other ones that works in a way that you like better. All right, so there you go. There's our line right there. You can see it fits really nicely. And what we would do then, if we wanted the line on the bottom, we would just find the matching one of these that will fit and make the line right on the bottom. It'll match up exactly because of the number that we chose. So always test this on paper before you put it on your quilt so that you know it will do what you want to do. Don't just start sewing and be like, oh yeah, that doesn't work now. Okay, so we still got our pin in there, so I'm going to take that out. And let's cut some of these. So we can just get those lines out of there. All right, and then the last one that I want to show you is this one is where we are going to make the circles first. Okay, so we'll use our same pin. We'll put the pin right in the center just like we did before. So this is a combination for this last one of the Circles on Quilts templates and the Between the Lines templates. So let me grab that. So we're going to be using one of these, which is the 1/2 inch Between the Lines template. You can see it's got all these great lines. We aren't going in a straight line, so we have to kind of use the lines with a grain of salt. Barbara Klinger, I'll do a little tie-off to share that again. I saw your question, so I will try to make sure that I share that and that you can see that. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to grab my little cheat sheet again, so make sure I'm telling you all of the right things. So one of the things that's great about this one and the Artisan Circle also is we have different size circles. I have 5 different circles in the Between the Lines set. So I can do a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/2, 2 inch with this type of template. And this method can be used essentially for any size circle. It's totally up to you. So that's one of the benefits of this method that we're going to do right now is that you can basically make it any size you want. And then it's a little bit harder to center the circle because we don't have that equally distance from the center. So you might find that maybe one circle's a little in and one circle's a little out. That's okay. I'm fine with that. Obviously, we need 2 different template sets. This is the Between the Lines set and the Circle set. So if you end up having to buy 2 different sets in order to complete this Strand of Pearls. And again, we don't know how many circles will fit with this, but I'm going to show you a cool little idea that you might try. Okay, so let's do the circles first. And let's see. 9 1/2, 10, and 10 1/2. Okay, so I'm going to get those. So for this one, the center line for the circle is going to be this 10 inch right here. So I'm not going to sew it, but I'm going to mark it. Okay, and let me show you what I'm going to mark it with. So I've got my bowheen chalk. It's kind of fat, but I've got a spacing disc, a special disc that'll fit that really well. So we'll just use that. And I'm going to draw this circle at 10. So we'll just move this around, mark the circle. And this is really important. Do not skip this step because this is the foundation for this design. We have to know where the circle is going to go, where it's going to be centered on. So we won't do the whole thing. We'll just do half of it. We'll just do a little bit of it. So there's our circle right now. That's our reference line. And we're going to line our circle up on that. But we need 2 more reference lines. So this is the number 10. And we're going to need to have that 1/2 inch bigger, so 10.5, and a 1/2 inch smaller, which is the 9.5. So we're going to get that out and mark those as well. So you can see the disadvantage of this particular one is that you're going to be doing a lot more marking, right? So if you don't like to mark, then probably the first one that we did is your best bet. So this one is 9.5, and now we need the 10.5 in order to do the marking on the outside.
Can you show what that marker is that you're using?
Yeah, so this is a Boheen chalk pen. It's big, fat chalk pencil. Love it. I think it works really good. So we said we needed 10.5 because you can see that's going to be sort of the quarter on that side and the quarter on that side. This line is pretty fat, but it'll still work out. So here we'll put the line on the top. And you could use a finer mark. It's fine. It wouldn't matter if you did that, but we just want to try to keep ourselves right in between the lines. All right, so here we go. Here's our circle. And with this one, I don't have to like line it up right on the line. I can just put my foot wherever I want. You know, if I wanted it so that the circle starts right there, then I can do that. Then put your circle in there and get your needle set right on that centered line. So have you decided? Oh, I'm upside down. Do you see my grips are upside down? Make sure you put your grips down. All right, and we'll get our needle seated right there. Okay, now when I'm lining this up, I'm going to try to show you how I need to line it up. I want the same amount of space on the top and the bottom as best I can, and this should be in that center space. We don't need our pin, so I'm going to take that out because right now it's poking me. When I sew those circle lines, I'll just put it back in. Lower the presser foot. My machine is smarter than I am. So here, 1.5 times around. And then I can just move it, and I'm going to look right here at the same thing. I'm going to get that center line and keep the spacing equidistant on both sides so that my circle will fit right in there. And I'm going to stop on the center line, and that's what's going to help me make sure that that circle is pretty and right in the middle. Okay, always make sure you wait until your needle stops moving before you make any adjustments. So I'm right in that center line, and I'll get lined up, and I'm checking the distance visually. You could use a spacing gauge if you wanted to. I think that's a bridge too far. I think if you're going to be doing these visually, you just want to look right here and just make sure that you have the same amount of space. And you can kind of use this little bitty arc right there to get you in the middle. That'll help you too. So you can see right here, I can kind of use that to line everybody up. This one is pretty easy to get the circle tucked all the way up into the foot. And what's nice about that is I tend to have less overlap even though I'm sewing all the way around. And then I say that and watch me mess it up, right? No, it looked good. Okay, I have some right in the middle, and here I'll just do maybe 1 or 2 more. But again, this one has the same problem that the Artisan circle has. It's really difficult to tell how many that you're going to be able to fit in any given space, right? So you don't necessarily know if you're going to end up where you have this right on the line. Notice that we're not lined up right on this quadrant. So right now we know that, you know, we're going to have an odd number of circles. So if that happened to me, I would do that same thing that I said before. I would just stop short so that I did not have them going all the way around and then at the end have a gap. I would just kind of maybe do like 2 or 3 sections and then make a gap, and then 2 or 3 sections, make a gap, so that you're planning for that at the beginning. One other thing that I want to share with you really quick, let me grab this out of here. I'm going to tie this off real quick. What's the question, babe?
What do you need?
Nothing. I'm good. We'll tie this off. So this is for Barbara. She asked me how I tie off. So right now, I stitched about 5 or 6 micro stitches. What that means is I'm taking really small stitches, but I am moving the sandwich. It's very important that you actually move, even a small amount. If I don't move at all, what will happen is those knots will stack right up on top of each other, and they'll be on the top of the quilt, and they look really unsightly. And then if you try to cut them off, well, then you've cut your knots off, right? So then they're not secure. So it's really important that you move in the stitch line, but just really small, like 0.2 or whatever for the size of the stitch. Now, that means that my stitch is secure. It's not going to go anywhere, but it's not knotted up. I'm going to pick up my needle and my foot, and I'm going to pull my sandwich about 6 inches away from where I left off right there. I'll line up everything. Right where this thread ended, I'm going to put my needle right back down. I will even sort of make it really precise, looking inside of this hole right there so that the needle is right where I left off. And I've got this loop in my finger. This is the top thread. So once I release my foot, I want you to see what happens. So there is some thread here, and this is the loop. If I pull both sides, that's how I can pick the bobbin up right there. I can't just pull this loop. I have to pull on both sides because that's the 2 sides that are going to lift that bobbin thread up for you. Sometimes I think if people, they just pull on this and they're like, oh, the bobbin won't come up. No, you got to pick up both sides. That's what gives you that little bit of pull. And I'll bring this up for Barbara and anybody else. So you are going to get, you know, kind of this little piece of thread right there. That is normal. It's not the most 100% perfect tie off, but I'm good with that. I'm totally good with that. And I like it. It'll stay. It doesn't come out. I've never had, you know, my quilt just fall apart or anything like that. And nobody's going to notice that when you just put a bunch more quilting in. But if you want the professional quality tie off, we can also do that out here in the margin. So if we were to sew and we want to have what I call a professional quality tie off, we would sew until we're finished. And you're going to do a lot of the same steps that we did before. First off, you're not going to micro tack though. No micro tacking for this method. You're going to raise your needle and your foot, and you're still going to pull your fabric and make a long tail. We need a long tail for tying off. And I'll pick up my bobbin thread just like I did before. Now, the bobbin has 2 sides. It's got this really long side right here connected to the bobbin. I can make that as long as the bobbin. And on this side, this is tacked to the quilt. So right now from the quilt, I want a long tail. So I'm going to cut this side so I have a long tail. So here's my long tail right there. You see that? And then the same thing with this one, I want a top thread that has a long tail also. So I'll cut that as well. And I physically do sort of check those and make sure that I'm getting what I want before I cut them. I literally pull on them and make sure I know which is which. And one of those is the bobbin thread right there. So the bobbin, let's see if you can see that. The bobbin's just going to go away. I'll just pull him away. Okay? So we have our starting tail here and our ending tail. And the way I like to tie this off, this is my bunny. Bunny's going to grab it and turn him over. There, that little X right there, that's what you want. Stick these right between your fingers and you're going to pull that, and you get a little loop right here. Now don't tighten that up just yet. We've got to get our special needle. So this is a self-threading needle. This is a Bohing needle bite. It's a French needle, and I love it. You can see right there. See how it's open on the top? See if we can get you a little better view of that. Right there at the very top, it's open right there. There's a little pressure plate that I can just slide the thread through. So we'll just do this one right here. We've got our little knot right there. Let's adjust our camera so we can get you closer to the surface of the quilt. Okay. All right, so that knot that we have right there, don't tighten that yet. Stick your needle in there, and you're going to pull the knot till it's about 1/2 of an inch away from the quilt. So right there, not right there, but a little bit away. And then I can pull this out, and I can tighten up the knot. And the purpose of that is if the knot is all the way down on the sandwich, touching right there, then I can't actually pull it through and cinch it up. It's already as tight as it can go. So you need a little bit of room. So then hold this and create a little tension right here, and just set that needle. I need a little bit more tension. And just pop that thread right on there. And it should move freely, just like that. Okay? Let me get you in a little close. So right there where we left off, we're going to put our needle right through the top layer, and we're going to wiggle it through the batting, making sure that we're not catching anything on the back. But we want it to go through that batting and go as far as it can, and then just pull it through. And our knot is right there. You can see it. So I can pull all of this slack out of there, and then I'll just hold this, and we'll just pop that knot right through there. Okay? So that's going to give you a ridiculously super clean tie off, and then the batting is trapping this little knot that you made. When you want to cut your threads, pucker this up, cinch it up a little bit, and that way you don't have to cut it too short, because I've cut my quilt before. And then when you pull that and you open it back up, all those thread tails will just disappear, and you have a beautiful clean tie off right there, which is very much hidden and will not come out. Okay, so we kind of got off track a little bit, but that's okay. I think that's a really important thing to share with people that don't know that. So if you're new or you haven't seen that before, I think those are some really, really important things. Okay, so we've made our little circles. So I'm going to show you real quick how these look, and you can decide which ones you like, right? So here is the between the lines circles, and they are kissing right in the middle. And I think they look good, and you can vary whichever side, that you're overlapping on. It's up to you. These tend to have the best not overlapping in the middle. That's my perspective because of the way we're positioning it. But they will not give you an exact measurement of how many circles. So now I'm going to show you this special little method that is kind of crazy, so just go with me. Hopefully you'll like it. All right. So if I have this right here, right, this is flexible. So I can stick this on the line right here, and I can measure my distance right there. And I could mark whatever distance off that I wanted to. So let me see if I can show you better. So this is the chalk line that we measured, right? And we're going to put this little string on here, and you want something that's maybe a little sturdier. I think mine does move a little bit, like it's kind of stretchy, so a little less stretchy is better, like twine or something like that. And you can measure this distance right here, and you can know how far you need to go. So for example, if I have a 1/2 inch circle and I have an even number like 7, or if I have 7.5, my circles should fit pretty much exactly, right? But if I have a number like 7 1/4 or 7 3/8 or 8 5/8, well, I know the circles are not going to fit exactly because these are 1/2 inch. I would take this, stretch it out, and then I can just put my ruler on it and I can measure what the distance of it is. And if it's even or 1/2 of an inch, then I know that my 1/2 inch circle should fit exactly. Isn't that crazy? I know it's kind of wonky, but again, what I said, I want something that's not too stretchy, and don't pull on it or anything like that. Don't distort it. But what you can do with that is then you can see, can I fit approximately an even number? Or you could even mark off where you're going to stop. So you can do circles, and I'll have a little mark right there, and that'll be the last circle. When the end of that circle hits right there, then that's where I stop, and then I would reposition to my new place. And you can just jump stitch. You can just tack this one off, and then don't even cut your threads, and just pop over to the new start point and just keep going. So this is, this is an old world math workaround, or like mapping. People do this all the time. You're taking what would be a curved distance, the circumference of this arc right here, and then you are converting it to a linear measure that you can use. So very, very easy way to do that. I know it's math. Oh gosh, maybe my geometry teacher, Mrs. Sullivan, would be proud. Oh, so I think that we haven't used all of our time today, but we are probably pretty much done. So I'm going to just recap really quickly. I'll show you the 3 different sets of tools that we are offering as an option, and then we'll just recap what the pros and cons are. And as I said, I will put those in a little cheat sheet for you guys. So this is the between the lines, right? And that's going to be this between the lines. And the benefit of this is I have 5 different circles that I can use, and they're going to have these same nice, easy reference markings. So you can make your circles different sizes, and all you need is the circles on quilts as a reference line, which is what we made to give you that center mark. And if I want to do the outer lines, I totally can do that, just like we did with the Artisan curve. This one is going to give you the best center connection between your circles of the 3 methods that we liked. And it's also going to offer you the option to have big or small circles, different size circles. Okay, so that's this one. This would have to be used in conjunction with the circles on quilts to mark the center line, or you will not work. So this requires you to have 2 different template sets in order to use the Strand of Pearls like this. Okay, all right, so then the next one. I'm just going to scoot some of this stuff out of here. This one is the Artisan circles, and it's pretty clean also. It has a nice pretty stitch between the 2. They do touch. It's a little bit not as clean as the between the lines, but still looks really good. And the benefit of this method is that I can create easily any dimension that I want from the center, any circumference of the circle. No, diameter of the circle, by just choosing a different number here. This also has bigger and smaller circles. The Westalee Artisan circle curves, I think, has 7 different circle sizes, like some really big ones, like 3-inch circle, a 2.5, 2-inch, like really big. I don't know that I'd want to do pearls that big, but you could if you wanted to. But this is the 1/2 inch, and this has the advantage of having all of these different arcs on there and having the circles touch in the middle and being connected to each other. It has the same problem as the between the lines, so you could try using that same string method and measuring your circles, but you're not necessarily going to get an even number of circles in any given space. You will always want to check that ahead of time. So the disadvantage for this one is if you want to make the arc lines of the circle like this, then you're going to have another template as well to match that up on this side. And because this has so many numbers, I think the circles on quilts would still allow you to match this up on every side, because if you had all 4 of the circles on quilts, I think you could still put the arc lines on either side. And the other thing that I like is I actually think that the arc lines look even better if they're a 1/4 inch bigger and a 1/4 inch smaller. Let me show you that in my sample. So that would look kind of like this, where they're not touching on the top, but you have a gap. So this one is a 1/4 inch bigger than the circle. And I like this. I think that gives a little bit more puff right there, which lets the circle kind of show out a little bit better. And this is just choosing the circles on quilt dimension that is 1/4 bigger than what would touch the top of the circle. So that's pretty easy as well. And that's just an option for you as well. So if you have those circles on quilts, I think they're super powerful and valuable, and you definitely want the 4-piece set because they do a lot. So that would be what you would need for these to work together. You only need 1 of these, but they have, like I said, different sizes, so that would be a choice for you. I don't personally like the 1/4 inch circle. I don't want to sew something that tiny. I'm just really lazy, I guess. But I don't think it's ugly or anything, but I'm just too impatient. So for my personality, this is the smallest circle that I would be willing to sew. And I think a 1 inch would look great also. So, I mean, I've definitely done those as well. And I think we have in one of our specialty sets for Baby Lock, they have a 3/4 inch circle. And I think that would be like the best size. So maybe you can find those somewhere. Okay, so that was this one right here. And then let's go back and we'll do this last one right here. And this one is the Strand of Pearls. And this one is for sure the easiest as far as making everything symmetrical, getting the lines on the top and the bottom. This one's definitely the easiest. And they always will have a line, at least one line that will connect these either on the inner circle or on the outer circle. You can do both, but it will always have at least one. And what this one is good at is this one is perfect for individually spacing the circles equidistant. So this makes the symmetry piece of the Strand of Pearls really, really easy. And that's really the function of this Strand of Pearls. But you're the designer, you're in charge, you need to know what options you have, and maybe one of these options fit templates that you already have, so you should play with those. And then if you just really want that symmetry and the easy function of lining everything up, then the Strand of Pearls is definitely there for you. So the Strand of Pearls has 9 different sizes, 9 different dimensions with this 1/2 inch, and then we also have the 1 inch set. We also have a heart set, which is super cute, and a diamond set and a hexagon set in this style where you would line up with the crosshair marks and match everything up. So a lot of different versatility for you. And like I said, I'll write up those pros and cons for each one, and then you can decide which one you think is best for you. And I would love to see it. If you do it, please send it to me because I'm curious. I want some feedback. Let's play together. All right, so let's see if you have a question that didn't get answered. I'm just gonna look through here really quick and see if we got everything. So I won't go back to the beginning. So if you guys could do me a favor, if you feel like that there was something good and valuable in this, would you please like this post and also share it with somebody so that we can get that information out to other people who might think that it's valuable. And that's kind of how we know that our content is valuable for you, that it's giving you something useful. So we always really appreciate that. That helps them know that we're doing a good job. All right. All right, and then I'll try to finish them up. I'll try to do the circles for each one of them. I'll finish them all the way around. And I'll post those on my fabricated quilt site so you can kind of see that. Nana asked, can I do the small circle with my echo? I think that you could always do a small circle with an echo, but for this technique, if you're using your echo ring, I think it's a lot harder to line it up. A lot harder, because think about it. If you, let's put our template back on real quick. So this is pretty small. This one is a 1/2 inch, but if you put the echo ring in here, you're using these lines visually and this mark to line up on the existing circle mark that you made. And if you put the echo ring on, all of these lines are going to be different. It's possible, but it's definitely harder. So Nana, what I recommend, I know you have the 1 inch circle. I recommend just doing it with the 1 inch circle. It's just a bigger circle, but it's still going to look great. And I think that would be much easier than trying to use the echo ring for this particular type of style. So that's just my feedback, but you know, you should try it. Do what you want to do. It's absolutely, you know, everybody has their own tolerance for frustration or for trying different things, and you know, maybe it works great. So I don't know, I'll try it too. Okay, all right, hopefully we answered that. And so I'll give you one other tip on this. Whenever you're doing these type of designs like this here, we did this as a 10-inch center measure right here. Make sure that you know how big whatever your design here is going to be first. I haven't done my center designs here, but you want to do this first and make sure that your strand of pearls is not going to compromise whatever your center design is. So I would do all of this work first, and then you can determine what size circle can fit around your design without damaging the design or cutting into it or whatever. And I'll show you kind of an example of that is when I was working on it, I had this one as my sample, and I knew what size circle I wanted to do, but then when I started making the marks for it, it would have cut right into this design right here, and I didn't want that. So that's how come this one is shorter, because I didn't want to cut through these circles because I just didn't want to. So make sure that you're checking that spacing right there, and make sure you do all of this center work first, get that all taken care of, and then you would put this frame around the outside after that. Okay. Is there a star in the Artisan set? Patsy, I don't recollect a star, and the reason why there probably isn't is, let me show you a little drawing of why that would be difficult. Let's say that this is our star. I'm not a very good star artist, but I'll just draw it on here. Okay, this right here, if we had like a star cutout, like a cookie cutout, this is an inside corner right here. This, the ruler would have to travel around this corner on the inner part. This would be where you'd be on the outside right here. So you'd be inside, outside, inside, outside. That means this would be round right here like this, and this would be pointy on this part right there. This is really difficult to do as a cutout. It's not practical. What would be more likely is for you to say, okay, I've got this, and then I'll do an X like this, and then you would go like this. You would put, you know, lines in the middle essentially, and you would go in, out, in. I'm not doing a very good job there, but you kind of get the idea, right? Like that. So this would be more of a straight line design that would be something that you would just mark the lines and you would go point to point, because that's what gives you these sharp corners. If you try to do it with this cookie cutout, you're going to get a pointed here and a point here, and then a curvy here and a curvy on any of those like this. So typically, you know, I've seen some of those designs that have like a star, and they want you to sew it and it's inside cutout. You'd get a much sharper star if you just made dots and did a straight line to straight line and measured those dots. And I think the 5 or the 6 point crosshair would easily make the right reference lines for a 5-pointed star or a 6-pointed star. You can just make double the lines, and then you have all of these reference lines measured from the center, and you can make an amazing star with that. So I know there isn't one for the Artisan set. And usually in the Westalee line, that is why, because this does not lend itself well to an interior cutout to do a star like that. And then if we had an exterior cutout, this point out here would be rounded if we were on the outside of a template. So normally you're not going to see stars for that. You're just going to make those with straight lines. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Okay, you guys. Well, I won't just keep you hanging around. I hope that you had a great time, and I'm going to say goodbye and have a wonderful quilting week. Thank you so much for sharing your time. I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate that we all get to spend it together. It is really fun. So I do check all of your messages, and I try to respond back to everybody and say hello, and I definitely enjoy getting to connect with you. And I'm starting to see more and more people are sharing their quilted images of stuff that we've done in our classes back with me. And I'm so excited to see that. So I would love to see anything that you're working on. I really enjoy that. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for your time, and happy quilting. And I will see you next week.